Welcome to this special edition of Beach Walk Insights with me, Chris Davidson. In a couple of weeks, my fellow Brits and I will get to vote on whether we want to remain part of the European Union. And already the debate is, like our weather, unseasonably hot with a risk of localized storms. And the debate surrounding the vote reminded me of how lucky I've been in my working life. I've had the opportunity to live in another country, to learn how to speak another language, to be part of a community there, to pay taxes to another nation's government and be accepted as part of a local community, despite the fact that my heritage and nationality was radically different from theirs. The vote in a couple of weeks on the 23rd of June isn't about party politics. It isn't about job security. It isn't about national security. It is about the amount of ground that the European Union has covered in the 20th century. Here are the customs forms that I had to sign when I moved to France in 1990. I found them in the loft the other day. By the time I moved back a few years later, all these forms had been replaced by a single sheet of paper. If you believe the EU is full of red tape, I can assure you, from having lived overseas, from having worked overseas, from having done business overseas, that this is not the case. Now, of course, I'm not defending the EU. I'm not saying it's perfect. But the direction of travel is the right direction and is clear. And EU bureaucracy is, I can assure you, a lot simpler than the bureaucracy of some other countries in which active presence also trades. My father never had the opportunities granted to me. He grew up in the aftermath of the Great War, somehow survived the Great Depression of the 1930s, and then found himself embroiled in an even greater war of 1939 to 1945. We don't need that or anything even remotely approaching it ever again. My view is, and my experience is, that Brits are welcomed across Europe. We're welcomed for our integrity, our ingenuity, our sense of fair play, and the fact that we want to work hard and do the right thing. This is something that I believe is worth preserving. All my life experiences led me to create Active Presence about 13 years ago. Since then, the company has expanded and employed quite a few young people and given them jobs. And frankly, that's because of the EU. The Active Presence sells overseas, and we've created British jobs for British people in the UK because of our relationship with the EU. If you're a middle-aged person considering voting to leave the EU, I'd like you to reflect on the following before you put your cross on the ballot paper on the 23rd of June. Your vote on the 23rd of June isn't for you. It's for the next generation. It's for the generation that are helping me record this film today. It's for the generation staffing the camera. It's for those people who are going to be editing and uploading this film later on today. The UK could survive outside the EU. This is true. But it would take us at least a decade for the politicians to unwrap all the treaties we've signed up to and for our economy to recover from the initial shock of leaving. Don't wish upon the next generation the darkness that came to my fathers during their formative years. This bridge that I'm standing on now was built in the 1960s. By the Royal Engineers as part of an army exercise. I remember watching them build it as a young lad, absolutely fascinated as they swung their ropes across the ravine and reconnected the two parts of this broken railway bridge. On the 23rd of June, I'll be voting for connection. I'll be voting to keep the bridge built, and I hope you will too.